Hi, my name's Rachel Andrews. Welcome to Everyday Athlete. On this week's video we have something slightly different. I'm having a swim with Heather Massey, Dr Heather Massey. She is working at Portsmouth University as a senior lecturer, and she works in the Extreme Environments Laboratory as a researcher as well. Welcome along, Heather.
Thank you very much.
Super to see you. This is your local swim spot of Leon Solent or Hillhead, are we?
Leon Solent.
Oh, superb. And I thought we'd just take the opportunity, as this is Heather's absolute area of expertise, to talk about cold water swimming, and I couldn't resist the opportunity to actually get in and have a swim with her too. Should we get and have a go?
Why not?
It's nice and soft underfoot so far.
Yeah, we've gone past the rocky bit. Just gets a bit sludgy. Just have to remember I've got a bobble.
Yeah, don't get your head straight in.
Oh yes, that's nice and thick today, isn't it?
Oh yeah, there's the goo.
Oh yeah, found the sludgy bit. Yeah, it's quite a walk out here at low tide. So yeah, you only have one choice, and that's to get in gently.
Oh yeah, just ease into it.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, it's something you should do anyway.
Yeah?
Yeah, always get into cold water quite slowly. Give your body a chance to get over the cold shock response. So that's that altered breathing that you get. So you get that big intake of breath, followed by rapid breathing. And by going into the water slowly and gently, that way you don't expose so much of the skin to the cold at the same time, and you can just gradually get over that altered breathing.
I'm guessing your breathing is almost sorted by the time you get to swimming depth.
Well, hopefully. We do find that the upper body tends to be slightly more sensitive to cold than the legs, for instance, just because you expose your legs to cold more regularly than you do the rest of your upper body.
So kind of as we're walking out, could you give me a little bit of a background as to how come you got into outdoor swimming? Because I've heard you've swum a fair distance, haven't you?
Well, yeah, I do swim quite a long way normally, but I started out outdoor swimming because my dad took up dinghy sailing, and he wanted us to swim with him. He wanted us to sail with him, so we ended up being chucked off the boat to learn to swim, but he worked out we needed some lessons when we were much younger. And so yeah, I've always swum, and yeah, basically my summer holidays were a misspent youth down at the beach, in and out of the water all of the time.
Oh well, that's a good start point for being one of these people like myself who just get in at all times of the year.
Yeah, and from there really I've just progressed. I think there was probably 3 years while I was at uni where I was completely landlocked and didn't swim. Ooh. But every opportunity I have, I've tried to be as coastal as I possibly can, or by water, yeah, in order that I can swim outside.
Oh, perfect. And as we're getting in here, I can feel the chill kind of going up me. I mean, ordinarily when I get in, I'm probably straight into waist depth water within a couple of meters. So then I just duck in, wait for my breathing to settle. But I'm feeling that cold creeping up on me, and I'm thinking now would be about the time I duck in. Is this cold water? Does it classify? It's a nice sunny day.
Yeah, it's still cold water. So we're right at the start of May. This is typically still cold water. Anything that gives your body a cold shock will be cold water. So this is really important at this time of year, specifically when the air temperature gets warm, the water is still cold. And so we still need to be very aware that we're going to have nice warm skin while we're out on the beach or the shore. This water is going to be a big shock because our skin temperature is going to be reduced very quickly, and that's what causes or triggers the cold shock response.
Is that cold shock response? That's that dangerous one, isn't it? When that's what you're more likely to die of than drowning, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. The cold shock response.
Not to put too much of a sad start to our swim.
The cold shock response is, those responses where you get change in breathing, you get very rapid breathing that can result in drowning if, say, your airway is underwater when you try to breathe in. So if a big wave comes over you, or you dive in, and all of a sudden you have that uncontrollable urge to breathe, that can result in drowning. Yeah. But also we need to be aware that when we're going into cold water, it's not just our breathing affected. We have changes to the blood flow to the skin, increases in blood pressure, and also a big increase in heart rate as well. So if you have an underlying heart condition, that could be problematic for you just entering the water.
So as we've progressed in here nice and slowly, would you say that's the safest way to do it? Just each time you do it, would it make any difference to habituation?
Well, the safest way to start outdoor swimming is to start right in the summer when the water's at its warmest, and then gradually extend your season either side. In terms of getting in, every time you should get in gradually. You may find that over a period of time you habituate to the cold shock response, so you have less of a problem with the breathing as you get in. But even so, it's still best just to let that altered breathing happen, and then start swimming. So I would wait until you've acclimatized to the water, you've got your breathing under control, like you and I are now. We're talking normally in normal sentences. Wait until you've got over the cold shock response to start that swim.
Perfect. I think I'm going to bite the bullet and get in then.
Yeah, I think we should.
Oh, look at you, like a pro.
Not at all. You know, I've spent years swimming outdoors in various temperature waters, and I still experience even just a small amount of the cold shock response. And whilst it's not going to be as bad as someone that has not swum so much, it's something we still, as an experienced swimmers, need to be conscious of. We're in 11-degree water here, and this is okay, and within a few seconds I'm all right, but not everybody's the same. And we need to sort of remember that different people will acclimatise and habituate to the cold water at different rates.
What a lovely day for it though.
Well, yeah, we've just had a flyby.
Yeah.
And we've got
people paddleboarding around us.
Stand-up paddleboarders and kayakers around us. I couldn't have booked the weather any better, really.
No, not really, especially knowing what's coming. Apparently it's supposed to be pretty rough over the next couple of days. We're all out for us today.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we've been treated to an air show.
Yeah. Is that James Bond? Did you book him?
No, I didn't book James Bond.
Nice of him to turn up anyway.
It'd be nice if Daniel Craig did come up the beach, wouldn't it?
Be quite. He'd have had to just got in and got out to manage that in his speedos though.
Maybe.
So when people, you see all sorts of kit down at the beach and at swim lakes and in rivers. What do you think's a good thing to wear for outdoor swimming?
Well, in terms of outdoor swimming, I think probably a swimming costume is an essential. If you want to wear a wetsuit, gloves, boots, as much neoprene as you want, absolutely go for it. If on the other hand you just fancy swimming in a swimming costume, feel free to put those booties or gloves on if you feel you'd like to. If it allows you to get in the water pain-free, so you have no pain in hands and feet, absolutely, if that isn't going to help you deal with the cold water. Doesn't mean you should stay in any longer because you've got boots or gloves on. What it might do is, if you have pain in your hands and feet because it's cold, that enables you to get in for that short period of time.
Oh, that sounds like great news. I'm really pleased to hear that because I've got not only gloves but boots on too, and I just find it makes me feel so much more comfortable, and it allows me to swim at possibly at times of the year where I would have found it just miserable, to be honest.
Hands and feet are not great barometers of what your deep body temperature is doing.
Aren't they? See,
no, not at all.
Oh.
So what we have is we have basically 3 phases of cooling as we're in cold water. We have the initial cold shock as you cool the skin. Then you start to cool the superficial nerves and muscles, which when that happens, you start to develop things like claw hand, things like that. Your stroke goes to pot, and then you're going to be cooling the deep body tissues after that. So actually, your hands and the state of your hands are more reflective of the skin, of muscle and superficial nerve cooling than they are of your deep body.
Oh wow! So they're telling you about that second stage, not the third one. How can you tell about the third one then if it's not through your hands and feet?
Well, you basically have to look at the signs and symptoms of body cooling. Unless you've got a thermometer that might be placed strategically.
Wow.
So you need to look for the signs and symptoms of hypothermia, so alterations in behaviour, omission of key facts. So if I suspected somebody of having hypothermia, I might be asking them really easy questions that they would definitely know the answer to. So that could be what the name of their dog is, who did they come with, what the name of their children are, those sorts of things that they would be instantly able to tell you exactly the answer to that question without hesitation. And so we're starting to look at those sorts of signs and symptoms.
Oh, that's really interesting. So having a swim buddy with you and knowing a little bit about them, probably the stuff they've told you during a social swim like this, then you can just kind of test them back on their own facts, really. That sounds quite a good way of doing it.
Yeah, if their behaviour changes, if they were very outgoing and they've suddenly become quite withdrawn, the chances are they're likely to have some element of deep body cooling. And so you may find even in the water that they maybe not swimming in a straight line, or their stroke has gone completely to pot as well. That their deep body is cooling rapidly and maybe approaching hypothermia.
So when I've swum before and I've ended up thinking, just as I was breathing and watching my hand coming over, my fingers are in a weird position, and so I thought, I'm just going to stop, I'm going to try and think my fingers straight, and I couldn't. I could push them out straight with my other hand, but I couldn't make them go straight by looking at them or thinking about it. So I'm guessing that was and to be honest, I took that as a sign of I needed to get out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a sign of you need to get out anyway, because if you're getting to the point where you can no longer coordinate a stroke properly, ultimately that's not going to be a good outcome if you're not able to coordinate a swimming stroke at all.
Yeah.
And you're you then start to drown. So yes, it's definitely if you have muscle and nerve cooling, that's definitely where you need to be getting out of the water.
Is that also when your legs start to drop down and you really struggle to keep yourself on the surface, rather than you feel like you're treading water but trying to go forwards?
Absolutely, and we call that swim failure. So you go from having a nice flat body across the surface of the water, gradually your hips start to drop. You're not moving as far or as fast, and as a consequence, what happens then is your stroke speeds up, but you're not making the same progress you were making beforehand, and gradually you'll come up to what you were describing there is what we call ladder climbing, where basically you are going vertical in the water, and you're so tired that you're not able to keep your head above the water.
Try and steer clear of that. I was going to ask you then about what would you say are the key ingredients of a safe swim then?
Well, definitely swim with somebody else that is knowledgeable about the area that they're going into. Know what's going to happen to you when you get in the cold water. Make sure you've got your toe float. Make sure you've got earplugs if you wear earplugs, a brightly coloured hat. We want you to be as obvious to other water users as possible. Let somebody else know. Say if you've got somebody at home, you can let them know that you've gone for a swim and when you'll be back, so that if you're not back at that time, they can raise the alarm. I think then also you've got to consider when you get down to your swim location, how are you going to get out before you get in. When you've been in the cold water for some time, you're going to feel quite tired and your strength's going to be sapped. So you lose about 3% of your strength for every degree of muscle cooling that occurs. So if you're going to be much weaker and you're required to climb up a vertical ladder after you get out of the cold water, and it's a challenge just getting in, you need to maybe reconsider where you're going to get in. So I think they're kind of the top tips I would keep for safe swimming. But in terms of starting out the swim, get over that cold shock response, be breathing and talking normally before you then start to swim. I think that's it.
That's a good list though. Lots of things for people to consider.
Yeah, maybe the most enjoyable part of the swim is the shorter swims. Longer swims tend to be less enjoyable from the point of view of just being here with friends, chatting. So if it is just a social swim, keep it short. We don't need to be in the water huge lengths of time.
And what about if you were thinking of training? If you're doing some fitness swimming, would you be in the water at this time of year doing it at 11 degrees?
I don't think fitness swimming I would do here in the water at this time of year. Go in the pool, get your fitness and technique organised and sorted in the pool, where you can swim for several hours if you need to do that. So I always have a good diet of pool swimming in normal times in order to keep myself aerobically fit and make sure my technique is in good check. I wouldn't consider doing fitness swimming here in the sea at 11 degrees. So it's just, one, your technique is different, but also you're not able to stay in the water long enough to have that fitness training effect.
Well, what a picnic we've got. This is super. So we've got some stewed fruit, and we've also got spicy ginger cake.
Yeah.
Brilliant. This is what outdoor swimming's about. And what's your hot drink?
It's a chai tea.
Chai tea. Mine's a hot orange squash.
Oh.
It's the best I could come up with. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming out. It's been brilliant to meet you and to go for that swim. But I am going to ask you one last question. And that's about warming up and shivering. I've got a bit of a shiver on here, and I think sometimes people are a little bit embarrassed about shivering, but what is it?
Well, shivering is your body's response to cooling. So absolutely, shivering is what we need to be doing. There's no need to be embarrassed about it. Shivering is a great way of rewarming, and all that is showing that you need to rewarm. So it's absolutely not a problem. Shivering is to be something that we should do. Yeah,
that is great news.
We find as people swim a lot more, they may not shiver so much, and that's purely because we develop a hypothermic adaptation. So we don't shiver at the same deep body temperature. We might shiver, if you're more experienced, at a lower deep body temperature, closer to being hypothermic. So it's a real double-edged sword, is that you can stay in longer and have less shivering, but your body temperature might be closer to being hypothermic. So the chances of you getting those warning signs of shivering are closer to the point where it becomes dangerous.
Oh blimey, so you really got to listen to it then.
Yeah, you've got to be very focused on what you're doing. Only swim for the duration you want to swim for. If you extend your swim, you've got to be very aware that you're going to carry on cooling after your swim as well. So don't forget, if you are swimming and you aren't shivering, then you're going to carry on cooling after that swim. It can take 20 or 30 minutes to get to the lowest deep body temperature after your swim. So if you're going to start to become uncoordinated, you're going to be start to lose your sense of direction after your swim. Driving is not the safest thing for you to be doing. So you've really got to, if on longer swims, you've really got to be very careful. You've got to get over that continued cooling before you start to do things like operate manual machinery. You're not only a danger to yourself, but to others as well. So yeah, if you are going to stay in the water for long periods of time, make sure you, as we're doing, have your hot drink, have something to eat, have a great chat, because that's what swimming is all about.
I'm going to get involved with something to eat.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
That was timing.
Yeah. That's good.
It's spicy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's gorgeous.
Cheers. Very posh having it on a plate as well.
Well, I just put them out the vat.
Is there a safe way to reheat, to rewarm? What's the best way to do it?
Well, the best way to rewarm is doing so naturally and gradually. So as soon as you're out of the water, get into dry, warm clothes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having a walk to try to increase your body temperature, maybe a slight jog if you're okay to do that. Some people like to put hand warmers in their pockets purely because they might have discomfort in their hands, and that's okay. So some people like to have a very hot bath as soon as they've got out of the cold water, and like to stay in it for very long periods of time. And what we found is that some people develop something called rewarming collapse, and that's why we say try to avoid hot baths and hot showers as soon as you get out of the water, purely because of this rewarming collapse. Now that doesn't mean that you couldn't have a slightly warm shower, just to get for comfort. But going into very hot water, it could well be painful, especially if you've got poor blood flow in your fingers, poor circulation. But actually steering away from hot baths is probably a good call. But as we're on the beach, it's a nice sunny day.
I'm baking in the sunshine.
Get your dry, warm clothes on, have a little bit of food, a little bit of exercise to warm up naturally and gradually.
Perfect. That's a really good summary. I think hopefully people watching this will really enjoy what we've been talking about, and it's really strike home a few chords about kind of the whole thing to do with outdoor swimming, how to do it safely. That cake and having a hot drink afterwards are absolutely essential. I think they're a key part of it. But mostly it's about enjoying yourself and not staying in too long, it seems.
Absolutely. None of us are going to be Olympic athletes, and so we're doing this for fun. And so it should be enjoyable and a pleasurable experience. So we should do that by whatever means that makes it so. So if that's a short swim, whatever you need to wear to go swimming for a short period of time is absolutely what you should be doing. So really you need to just have a think about what you find enjoyable about the activity and focus on those elements, and don't be drawn into other people's goals. Focus on what you want to about that swimming.
Perfect. Thank you ever so much.
No problem, thank you.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this week's video. I know it was quite a bit different from what I usually do, but I found that information from Heather absolutely fascinating. I'm going to link below in the description one of Heather's papers, which I think will be really interesting for you and gives all the backup to the stuff we were talking about. If you did enjoy it, please give it a like and drop me a comment. While you're at it, please consider subscribing to my channel by clicking on my face and dinging the little bell, and you'll get the notification when the next one's out. And I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye!